Did everyone know there's a wall run spot back here? I guess I don't play on Splash a whole lot, but was I the only one in the dark about this for so long? I found it while playing a CTF game recently, and I knew it's not like I was the only one to know about it, and I looked it up, and sure enough, a few people made videos about it a while back. It seems pretty obvious that you can go through here in retrospect, but I was always just going into or under the ship. Well, there's a pro tip for the other two people who didn't know about it. Okay, leaving that random topic, I was debating making any sort of video having to do with all these weapons that I was lucky enough to pick up in that supply drop discussion video that we had a week ago. I didn't think there was a whole lot I could give in terms of strategy that isn't just completely readily apparent to everyone, but I think I've come up with ways to make it interesting. Since that supply drop video, I did get all the weapons to dark matter and max weapon level. A little bit obsessive, maybe. Obviously, there isn't anything I can tell you about getting the dark matter melee weapons that would vary from what I said about the combat knife. While they aren't identical, they all perform very similarly. I could show them all off, since in this world we play in, unfortunately not everyone will get the chance to use everything, myself included, unless they release some big change towards the very end of the year, and I wouldn't rule that out. The double weapon XP weekend helped a lot. I did the 3 melee weapons and the Banshee during that, because I figured I could get dark matter on those much faster than it would take to get to the max level, and that worked out very perfectly, earning both at around the same time. I'm glad I left the PIET E9 until after the double weapon XP, because that dark matter takes a little while, longer than I expected, and getting that will be the main topic of the video. But first, I guess a little bit about the Banshee. I'm sure you've heard other people talk about it, so I'll skip over the basics. But as for a personal review, this thing is quite a bit of fun. Is it pay to win? No, even if you wasted enough of your money to finally get this thing, you won't suddenly be winning because of it. Is it kind of unfair that only a few lucky people get to use it? Yeah. Do I feel inherently guilty talking about how it's fun to use, knowing that many people don't have access to it? Yeah, a little. It's not my fault this thing fell in my lap. But is it OP? No. Except for that part where it's crazy effective against air kill streaks, but skipping over that because I'm thinking and hoping that will be modified. Other than that, there is rarely a scenario where I think, wow, I just destroyed all those people, good thing I have the Banshee, because that wouldn't have happened with any other weapon. Not really. In pretty much every case, you'd be better off with whatever assault rifle or SMG, but every kill with it is as satisfying as a double kill with a normal gun because of how it is a projectile and you have to lead every shot a little bit, predict where the enemy is moving, hitting a long range shot or hitting a nice pre-fire where you shoot at a corner, predicting someone would run around before you even see them. Those are really satisfying, although I will admit it must make for a very frustrating death on the other end. The first couple games I played with it were pretty terrible getting used to it, but by the end of that short grind, things were going very smoothly. If you have the Banshee and are going for dark matter, you don't have a lot to worry about, because as a shotgun capable of one-shot kills, that's exactly what you need for the bulk of the camos, which is super easy to do. Every kill is a one-shot kill. Thank God they didn't ask for headshots, because that's exactly what they did do with the PIET E9. I've seen many people talking and asking about PIET E9 headshots, because they don't come very naturally. The PIET E9 is a 2-round burst, 2-shot kill, secondary pistol, 51 damage per shot, projectiles just like the Banshee, and as far as what I think about it, it's very similar. It's a fun weapon. It's very usable up close, but not very consistent. I tend to get a nice multi-kill one time, and then really wish I had any other pistol the time after that. If you're going for the dark matter PIET E9, you may also be struggling with the headshots, as they do take some time. The first thing you'll want to do to make things easier on yourself is a fairly standard approach to take to every COD challenge, and that is to think, would this be easier in hardcore? And for this one, yeah, I would say it is for sure. It might not be obvious right away, because that isn't something that would make sense for getting headshots with any other weapon in the game. Headshots make more sense as a core mode thing. You wouldn't want to be getting the one-shot body shots that are made possible by hardcore. You might regularly only want to go for hardcore for one-shot kills or pistol long shots, but with the PIET E9 headshots, hardcore makes a lot of sense. Because of how this thing is a 2-round burst, and you normally need both to kill, it can be tough to line up a headshot unless you sneak up behind someone and get prone and get really close. Your best bet for headshots in core mode would just be to aim for center mass and hope that second shot bounces up just the right amount for a lucky headshot, which will happen eventually. But if you want to get it all done in a timely manner, it's nice to have more control, and that's what you get in hardcore. Since every shot is a one-shot kill, no matter where you are, you can completely forget about that second shot and only focus on lining up the first one as a headshot. And now you can employ all the fantastic methods of heat wave to slow people down and guarantee the headshot. Pre-aiming at head level, crosshair placement, and aiming down your sights longer will help you out a lot. Tons of flanking and getting around people is great for some easy headshots. Find AFK people whenever possible. Playing a bit sneaky is good to get behind people. Like here, after checking my map, I waited here knowing that 95% of the time, people who run through here go up the stairs and not into this room. Anyway, hardcore does make this easier by giving you more control over the situation. You can actually aim for the head. I used this gun in hardcore for pretty much the entire time leveling it up, so when I took it back to core mode, I had to retrain myself to remember that it isn't a one-shot kill weapon. Thankfully, that would be bad. With hardcore though, even still, I will admit, you may often feel like you got a headshot, but that doesn't count for anything because the game disagrees with you. It seems like the projectile bubble you're firing has a pretty big hitbox, and that somehow leads to a lot of neck area shots not being counted as headshots. This example was really interesting. I stunned them, just because I also need the stun kills challenge. I never really use tacticals regularly, but I think because their character model put their arm up to cover their ear, I shot their arm, and that wasn't a headshot, so that plan backfired. Anyway, you might sometimes feel cheated out of headshots, so whenever I have time to fully line it up, either because of heat wave or flanking around behind a camper, that's another thing about hardcore actually, way more people camp. I don't know if it's the type of people who play hardcore, or if it's the other way around, and hardcore mode just favors campy play, because you don't have a radar by default and you can't watch kill cams, or maybe a little both, but I ran into some serious corner campers and lying down in the back of the map campers, not even repositioning after getting a kill. I didn't think that kind existed in Call of Duty anymore. Turns out they're all hiding in hardcore. It can be annoying, but if you find a creative way around them, it does work in your favor for these headshots. The rest of the camos for the Rift are standard. The long shots are crazy easy, of course, no range drop off on this thing. And the Bloodthirsties, you could continue in hardcore for that, for the one-shot kill potential. And not like it's special or OP for that reason. Tons of stuff is a one-shot kill in hardcore, and they don't have projectile travel time. So I went back to core mode myself. I've read some mixed reviews from people on this weapon, but I like it. Considering it's a secondary weapon, it's just approaching the peak of how good something should be in a supply drop, especially a secondary weapon. It isn't any Marshall 16 when that thing first came out, but it's interesting. Alright, I know some people out there will just make an entire video out of showcasing one dark matter melee weapon for 3 minutes and do nothing else. Shots fired, I don't actually have anyone in mind. But I don't feel like I've said enough things of value in this video, so here's another mini pro tip. If you're going for that 100% challenge completion, unless you're a big fan of Thermite, there's a chance you haven't gotten 300 Thermite kills, because it isn't the best at that, killing. It takes 3 ticks of damage in core mode, allowing sensible people to get out of it. Most of your kills will come from either damaging someone while they're burning, or from throwing it on a dom flag or hardpoint and there's some stubborn guy who isn't willing to leave. But you need 300, so when you're spending time in hardcore, you may as well run the Thermite, because it's only 2 ticks of damage in hardcore, making it much more awkward for people to escape. The only downside is that teammates can run into it. Yeah, great. If that wasn't enough, here's one final mini pro tip. The Gone Fishing Challenge requires you to get 5 depth charge medals. The challenge says C4, grenade, or trip mine underwater, but it really means explosive kills underwater. A lot of things count for it. You might not have done it naturally if you don't spend much time around water, but it isn't too tough once you do. Just so you know, both these energy weapons award depth charge medals when you get kills with them and the person you shoot is underwater. That isn't really the spirit of a real depth charge, but apparently they are classified as some sort of explosive. I found this while playing a splash game when I got this depth charge medal and thought, wait a minute, what just happened? Later tested it out with both weapons, and sure enough, that is the way it is. Obviously, I'm not the first person to realize this before people think I'm talking about how I pioneered this knowledge somehow. No, I did not. I know it's already on the internet. It is rare to be the first thing at something meaningful with the internet being the way it is. Like being the first on YouTube videos, that's very meaningful. Anyway, this fact about the energy weapons makes this challenge even easier, but if you aren't lucky enough to have one of these weapons, do not fear. You can still C4 spam or L4 siege spam if you have that, or use the gravity spikes even. This little fact could just make an easy challenge even easier if you happen to have it. These pro tips are kind of just the things I think about all the time, but are way too tiny and would make for a garbage video on their own. Alright, well hopefully if you're going for the Rift E9 Dark Matter camo, something here has helped you gain some insight. But let's be honest, the purpose of this video was really to humble brag about how I no-lifed this game and maxed out all 6 weapons I was lucky enough to receive last week in just a few days. Please validate the time I put into this for very little practical reason. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.